Well, good morning, everyone, and well, thank you very much for having me over here. It's a big pleasure for me as well. And I must say, I understand all the Barcelona and Catalonia fans because yesterday there was a big party at the stadium and it was a great fireworks. So I take some, damage myself. So I understand it a bit later, and that's why I missed the super cocktails. But sorry, I had to give priority to that. So yes, I'm actually going more into the trenches today and want to talk about internal stuff at Philips. We have had a very inspiring start. You can't top that, I think. So, Bill, thank you also again from my side. And then Andy was bringing us into really, what can you do to scale stuff up? What is the Dutch factor in there? I'd like to touch a bit on the Dutch factor as well from the point of view of a company that has Dutch roots, is very much Dutch, and has a culture, internal culture, that is very much influenced by that. So my talk will really focus about how does that always poldering, discussing with each other, trying to find the best way internally with all the pressures all the way around to, where we proud ourselves to take next steps in the circular economy, and we're far from there. Just to make that disclaimer as well, we actually, if I refer to Bill, in many cases, we circulate still the old stuff, right? But that's the first step to circulate other stuff, and that's where we're at right now. So, my talk, 3 points. I want to talk about Philips today. You will have my 2 corporate slides in there. I have to tell you a little bit about what Philips is doing today because it's changing quite a lot. I want to talk about the role of the sustainability function as such within the company, because that's something that I find quite amazing, and it might be similar in your organization. So I'm addressing myself a lot to other MNCs or other companies today. And then in the how now part, I want to focus a bit on the interventions and tools that we are using as a function within the organization to actually get the big tanker moving and shifting, because as you can imagine, it's not, at least in the Dutch model, it's not the CEO has the bright idea and the vision and then everybody follows behind. It's like the CEO has the bright idea and then all the discussions start. And then you have to kind of help to see what that can do actually and get things moving. So, I heard a lot of anniversaries yesterday. Was it 150, 130? Okay, I have to add mine. It's 125 for Philips this year. You see here actually the first note of forming the company. We had this party actually last week. Yes, last week it was. And we have our football team. We have the PSV, the Philips Sports Vereniging, and we got the Copa as well for the Netherlands. Big party as well, and actually we've celebrated all together at the stadium. We had the celebration of Philips 125. So just, that's where it's coming from. And so these are the 2 corporate slides I was talking about. What is Philips doing right now? And I think I have to turn a bit more this way because it's getting better. Sorry, I have to first get to know the space. Philips is now focusing actually on 2 things. That's healthcare and lighting, and the company is splitting in 2, as you might know, but I don't want to bother you with this. But here's some key figures, facts and figures for those who care about the quantitative side of things. More the qualitative side of things, and now I'm zooming into the healthcare, is actually that the focus of the company is to merge the consumer part of the company, let's say the B2C part, where we're talking about end customers using products, and the hospital side of the company, to bring it together into the health continuum, where it's about healthy living, prevention of diseases, and then diagnosis, treatment if it's needed, and then quickly home care, come back into your home environment, and then of course technology, IT is playing a key role to make all the things possible. And we actually define this in 2 directions. We say, well, there is some industrialization of care happening because it's a big cost factor. We have to get costs down as a society, and technology can play a big role in there. And the other side is personalization. It's that human factor. It's not a factory of people going in and out. We have all individual needs, and that mix is where we as a company try to find the niche and add value. Now coming to the changing role of the sustainability function. This were the beginnings of the last century. It was all about the social corner, insurance arrangement, housing programs, work week, and here's some original documentation. What you see here is these were the first housing projects where the Dutch didn't have enough labor and actually had a lot of Spanish come over and build housing, and there's a quite vivid community still in Eindhoven specifically. You had insurance papers where you could get health care where it wasn't already, was not existing at that point. And that was the campaign, bad visuals for our reference today, but that was the campaign to go from 6 work days to 5 work days. So that period was all about the social factor, about the employees, and how to create an organization that takes care of their own. Then the next 30 years was all about environmental agenda. And this is about all the doing less bad, right? And proud to talk about all of these reporting activities where it's about the first sustainability report, then the first integrated annual report. And it's funny, we were just now looking into the visual language as well, and this kind of visual language is coming back actually quite a lot nowadays. So in terms of branding, I think it's interesting to look at that as well. And whereas in the beginning we had 70 years, then we had 30 years, and the next period is 15 years, and this is really about accelerating and changing the language. And here's some milestones: is getting into the first programs on sustainability for the company, defining green products, green sales, starting with tools, metrics, and I will be coming to that in more detail in next slides. And as we go on, we more and more implement and broaden into that. And I love that diagram, Bill, into that little triangle in the bottom. So bringing those things all together and really reporting and externally and internally about them in a coherent fashion. And so what's next? Next is this. For the next 5 years, what we foresee is actually completing that transformation and changing the function into business strategists. We are moving more and more away from the environmental manager to the business strategist as a sustainability function. And I'm introducing to you actually the new program that we will be launching next month. And this is actually an internal slide that we used to explain to the organization what is the journey that sustainability is going through within the organization. And you see on the top, we start with, it's all about the operations, no structured programs. Then going down into the early 90s into, filling the operations part, waste in the operations, water, energy, etc. Looking more into the product dimension, starting to look into, okay, how can the products in their use phase be beneficial also from the environmental point of view, on top of their features that they, of course, deliver to the customers. And then we go into our series of EcoVision programs where we start to put branding in. And as we go further down and start to fill all those circles, our ambition right now is to actually fill them all, and the biggest step will be to completely integrate what we do in our branding and what we do in our strategy with the vision and mission as a sustainable company. And this will be the program, Healthy People, Sustainable Planet, and I'm just doing some little ad here so you can watch our CEO launch this June 20th. Now, coming to the next step, and here I'd like to spend more time because I think this is really the part where I hope can share a bit more and see if that is something you can put in your. Remember, we had in your toolbox and in your program, you have the points and the barriers and the tools. So I hope I can help you fill in that part with this part. And here's the summary. 3 things actually. Agree really on the company level. What are the KPIs, and then diligently track them. And I'll go into detail on the 2 in the red box. So looking about what we have been introducing as the green product sales, and what we are going to introduce as the circular revenues. So these, take them as tools, right? We're not claiming anything with this. This is just more an internal tool to help the organization understand where they should go and how to get there. Then secondly, what we as a function do is support the markets and the businesses hands-on to really generate proof points and tools so that they can have a running start. And there I'll talk about some of those tools and some of the work that we have been doing. And thirdly, it's about awareness. And here I will touch upon stuff we're doing on media, on e-learning, etc. So let's get into it. Green product sales. So this is a KPI that we have introduced, as you saw already a number of years ago. And basically I put the definition here just to give you a feel. Sales to thirds of validated green products as a percentage of total. And we're tracking this. In the annual report, we're talking about this. A lot of investors are very interested to follow this. And the fun part about this, it's not just getting that curve up a little bit and up and up and up. Basically, we were wondering, okay, this is not useful at all. When is it end? Okay, what does it mean? You have 100%. Doesn't mean so much. So over the last 10 years already, we have been sharpening the criteria as we go. So it's actually a double effect. On the one hand, every year those criterias, what kind of substances are in there? Let's pre-phase out stuff that we know is not good. Let's reduce the weight further. Let's look into longer lifetimes. And circularity is about, is this designed to be modular, to come back, to be reused, to be refurbished? So each year, we are stretching those targets to our businesses. This is an internal discussion. And then we have to have a handshake. Businesses go ahead. We check on a quarterly basis. How do you do? Where do you run into problems? How can we help as a function again? And then in the end of the year, we look at what's coming out, and then we report this here. And the nice thing is, by giving very detailed boundary conditions and targets, the businesses are very happy. And they say, well, finally, we can actually know where we should be going and what we should be doing. You give us a hand. It's too far away that the high-level CEO talk. We need to get into a bit more structure, and that's what we try to provide through these exercises. And so the fun is, it's getting tougher every year, but the numbers are getting up every year. So people are motivated, and they find proactive ways. Now the dialogue has started to move the other directions. From 10 years ago, it was like, oh, go away, to, I have this idea, can't we do it like this? And maybe we will put the targets higher. So that's a tool that we have been implementing for reporting, but it's actually much more an internal motivational tool and a way to discuss and track progress. Then let me come to circular revenue. So what is this thing? Sales to thirds, validated circular products, services, solutions, percentage of total sales. And basically, you want to go similarly as we just did with the green stuff. And we have defined those 5 categories. And we are tracking now and trying to put into the basket, what do we have? How can we increase them and start to do a similar thing? So products with recycled plastics, we're not talking about recycled metals because we have no influence in that. We have some influence in recycled plastics, so that's one of our focus areas. Refurbishment, and here again, the current thing is, okay, we say 30%. Obviously, you want to go to 100 at some point, but this is the starting point. Performance and access-based models, but not just performance, but there is a clear contractual condition that the assets have to come back, and Philips is controlling what's happening with those assets, and then has the incentive to do something with these assets, going beyond the old designs to the new designs. Upgrades and extension, and that's mainly in the hospital space where people say, oh, an MRI scanner, typical lifetime 10 years. And so what we say, no, we stretch it to 12. We stretch it to 15, and that's what we want to track, and then we want to take them back, and we want to refurbish them, etc. And then resale of commercial products, and that's something, of commercial returns, that's something we're still struggling a lot, and if there are any retailers in the room, we still want to continue the dialogue, of course. How can we do something about the commercial returns? So basically, this is the thing, you get that present on Christmas, you bring it back because you didn't like it, and they just trash it, and they charge us for the trashing and for the product, and it's complete waste on all fronts. So these are the 4 buckets of 5, and we're starting now and tracking this, and you'll hear more about it in the months to come. Then let me go into more in the tooling. So basically what we have been observing is we started out with, okay, let's create that circular economy toolbox. And basically people are overloaded with toolboxes. And so we have all of these tools already. These are just business tools that are standard. You learn them in school, basically. And what we have been doing is actually go through them and say, well, what would a circular mindset mean for this tool? Let's adjust it, let's expand it, let's just add to it, and then have people basically frame their problem in a different way, but using very much the same tools. So this is what we're doing here. I won't go into details of those, just to give you a feel. And then the propositions. So here I'll be touching a little bit on the stuff that was mentioned earlier by Andy. If you want to know more about Light as a Service, you'll find a lot on the web. But here, just a short one slide. Basically, we have moved to selling the stuff, to selling the service and the functionality, and here are the benefits. But the point that I want to make is this wasn't something that the function, that the business itself, would come up by themselves. This required a customer, Thomas Rau, to come to Philips and say, I don't want your stuff, I just want the service. And then it required a lot of internal discussions and a lot of work by a collaboration between the sustainability function and the business and the designers who are now looking into, okay, we're getting new boundary conditions, we have to look into new designs. And we're going through the portfolio of products right now and saying, these are pretty okay in terms of modularity, upgradability, reuse, etc. These, not so much, immediate attention point. Think about redesign of that product because we're putting it into a circular Light as a Service in a Light as a Service proposition. And then this one, and yes, we're doing healthcare and the as to leave. So this is the work we're doing with Circular Economy, and we're actually very happy with the collaboration, getting great insights from the folks over there. And what we are going to do is to look very specifically into circular radiology. So we are getting hospitals come to us and they ask us, okay, so what is circular procurement? Can you tell us? We want to be circular as a hospital, but what is it? So this is starting at a C-level discussion to have the tools to understand, how does a hospital look like? What is the part of the radiology department? What could we offer you? What could we do together to make that whole activity a better closed loop? And then last but not least, it's about expanding the awareness. And here is a project that we do together with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We have developed this tool, which is an e-learning module for internal education. So This is just being rolled out right now. Basically a 45-minute e-learning that you can do behind your desktop, and it's quickly introducing the concept, but then we take care to go into details, on what's the innovation role. We want to help the other functions in the company to know more and help us understand what they can do to add their part. So what is the innovation doing? What is the logistics? How can you engage customers better? So we go very quickly into these parts, and that's the exciting part, to get really the whole company moving. And then this is really the last one. Some of you might know the work we're doing with The Guardian. That's for us also a key internal tool, because putting our stories and the stories of our customers and partners into the open is getting us the internal feedback that we need to make the next steps. So recap, on the one hand, it's really about the function, and make sure that this is owned by a function that can drive this strategically as a topic. I've been talking about the changing role, and I have been talking about the shift from environmental managers to strategists. And on the other hand, it's really about challenging the organization and support them at the same time. So setting the company level KPIs and track them very diligently, but then help with the hands-on tool, and last but not least, the overall awareness creation and education. And that's it. Thank you very much.